Good Tuesday morning, everybody. How we all doing?
Good morning.
Happy Tuesday.
So there is a feature here called Q&A that I am clicking on, and I don't know. Do you guys see Q&A like under your activities?
I do see it, yes.
All right. So, and there is a post anonymously little checkbox. What I'm curious about is maybe we've got some questions out there that people are embarrassed to ask. And so with this new little feature, I'm hoping that maybe we can just generate some more questions that you don't necessarily feel nervous about or anxious about throwing out there and having your name tied to it. So it looks like, so it doesn't like necessarily pop up. I think, John, you were the one that said yes. Is it like you have to go to activities to see it?
Yeah, so you go into activities, and then it's like the second option down. It says Q&A under polls.
Can you go
And when
ahead
you
and
click-
can you just put a test in there, John, so I can see how it comes through on my end? And then if you're not following along here, activities, you should see a triangle. Oh, cool. That comes right up on my screen. Nice. You should see a triangle, a square, and a circle. So that is the activities button if you're on a phone or something. So yeah. And then that's posting anonymously. So I can kind of keep this up. Yeah. Very cool. Cool. All right, so we should know moving forward if you guys have questions, that you don't necessarily feel comfortable tying your name to. Let's just use this little feature here to drop a question in, and you can post it anonymously. Having said that, let's get started with some positivity. Who's got something good going in their world? What do we got going on out there? I got a new outfit, which is fun. It's a lot of fun, actually. I'm starting to learn how to tie a background to a piece of clothing here. Put my wardrobe together. No positivity going on out there? What do you got, KB?
I have been hunting for weeks to find Celtics tickets to take the boys to a Celtics game that weren't ridiculously priced and in a reasonable section. And I finally found them last night, and I'm very excited. And my boys are going to be pumped for Christmas.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a Celtics game. I'm like a huge sports fan, and I've been to all kinds of sporting events and Boston events. I don't think I've ever been to a Celtics game, which is weird. So enjoy. So how about some real estate talk? What do we have going on in the real estate world? You got something weird going on a deal that would be a good share, or something that you learned on a transaction? Margareta.
Morning, all. I'm having the hardest time getting insurance on the property that's under agreement and about to close in a week. And what's going to happen if I can't get insurance? I mean, not me, the buyer.
Yeah. I've
Doesn't go
never.
forward.
Yeah, I don't understand. This is the same one we were talking about either earlier, yesterday or late last week.
Yeah, it's because it's considered, and I've talked to the insurance people themselves. I even asked for the current buy because it's bank owned. What is
Yep.
their insurance policy? So I have their policy. So I said, why don't we contact them? I'm going to contact the lender today to see if they have any other suggestions because we have the lending on this. It's almost like I'm
Right.
like, is this buyer getting out of it? I mean, it's considered,
But
and I guess
did you talk to a commercial insurance company, Margareta?
yeah, I talked to Dow. I'm involved
And
with
what did they
Dow.
say?
So I guess because it's considered somewhat of like a R&B, because it's a sober house living and it's like
Yep.
its rooms are being on a weekly basis. So I guess I guess they have a different setup for that, and it's harder to get a policy for like R&B kind of situations. But I mean, there's R&Bs that are being
or
insured.
they either can or can't do it. So what did they tell you?
So I guess they're still working on it, but she said it was supposed to be very difficult.
Okay, and then what happened when you went to the current owners on what insurance policy they have?
So I just found that out about yesterday, so I'm going to contact them today. They're in Sturbridge, so I'll find out. But I think because it's bank owned, they're like have a different policy altogether around that, so it might
Yeah,
not be
and then
as specific.
and then the final thing is like you could go to like a Lloyd's of London or something. I mean, it just seems ridiculous that a local insurance company is not going to be able to insure this. I think it's just a matter of time. Let them do the research. But at the end of the day, like a Lloyd's of London, that's their specialty is weird stuff. You know, they're the ones that, you know, insure the vocal cords of famous artists and stuff, like weird stuff. So you're always going to be able to get insurance. Like you shouldn't not be able to get insurance. Obviously, it might cost you a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. Yeah, I think they use Lori. Lori's just saying asking commercial salespeople, right? So you could call over to SR Commercial, Jeremy Casey or Paul Bongiorni, and say, hey, who are you guys, you know, going to if you have weird insurance things? So that's not a bad
Great idea.
suggestion, Lori. Thank you. So if you don't have their contact info, Margareta, you can send that to me. Thanks, Lori. That did not come up the other day, so. Anybody else have any other thoughts on Margareta's insurance situation? All right. Joel, what do you got?
Yeah, I just added a link for Margareta to look at. It's through soberlivings.com. They may be able to help. I know a lot of people are doing sober living homes or alternative living homes as a way of having an outside business or another type of business. So they might be able to help. And if not, Lloyd's of London, like you said, they cover a whole bunch of random stuff as well.
Joel, that's
Thank
another
you so
great
much.
suggestion.
Fantastic.
Yep. And if those guys are the ones helping people do these sober homes, they've got to know ways to get insurance on it. That's a great share. All right, Margareta, report back to us. But those are a couple of really good suggestions. So, all right, who else has got something weird going on in a deal? A good learning lesson for the group. All right, well, I'm going to stay on my Chris Voss kick. I want to talk a little bit more about some emotional intelligence. I thought this was a good clip that I saw by him. So let me tee this guy up. Share.
Somebody physical pain's coming, they brace themselves and they can handle it. If you say, look, this ain't gonna hurt at all, and you hurt them, they're angry. Well, emotional pain's the same thing, because the emotional pain centers and the physical pain centers in the brain are pretty close together, react pretty much the same way. Look, this is gonna sound disrespectful. You go, all right, bring it. And then afterwards, the person on the receiving end goes, wasn't that bad. Thanks for being a straight shoot. That's how you make the 2mm shift from being someone who has no emotional intelligence to somebody who has tons of it. Just call it out, don't deny it. If you warn somebody physical pain's coming,
What do we think about this? I really, really like this. I think I've subconsciously done this a few times in my life, and I definitely think it works. Of just trying to be upfront that, hey, you might not like this, or this is going to hurt, or this is not exactly what you were hoping for, but, right? Anybody have any, real estate shares or just life experience shares where they've used this, or you could see how this could help? Alex.
I have followed Chris Voss for quite some time, and I've actually used that plenty of times. I'll call a listing agent, especially if we're putting in an offer stage. $15,000-$20,000 lower, and I just go, you are gonna hate me. You're about to receive the worst offer in the world. And then by the time they get it, they're like, oh, dude, this is perfectly fine and usable. So it really helps by excessifying the blow, but then for them to realize it's not even as bad. Where otherwise I'll be like, hey, I got a solid offer for you, blah, 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 blah. And then they come in to see that it's $20,000 less, they're going to get a slap in the face versus the first one where they're more likely to work with us. So I do it all the time.
Yeah, I think, the lowball offer is the time to do that. And I think it can absolutely soften the blow. I mean, if we want to stay in the lowball offer, we just got a question in here through the Q&A about how are we helping our buyers who want to put these lowball offers in, even though the market is softening. And I didn't do headlines today, but the one headline that was out there was I think it was the chief economist of Realtor.com that said that she believes 2025 we're going to see our first balanced market in nearly a decade. Right. So we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see mismatches in what a listing agent thinks they can get for their property and what a buyer is thinking the property is actually worth. When the market starts to balance out, we're not getting multiple offers. We're not getting over ask. We start to get under ask. And so being, able to deliver the news, and I love this little strategy from Chris Voss. And I think to answer the question here, I think that's really the way that we've got to do it. Is, hey, look, it looks like the market, if we were talking to your seller, it looks like the market's softening a little bit. We pulled the comps and we saw some of these houses go, maybe in the last 6 months, maybe 3-4 months ago. But here in the last few months, here's what I'm seeing. I had a good conversation with this buyer's agent, and they're kind of feeling the same way. I mean, the buyers absolutely love your house. They love all the updates that you've made. It's just, this is where they see the value at right now. So, I don't know, the comment here on the question was, it seems like buyers are trying to force the prices down with all the price drops in the market and balancing that with our buyers' offers. And I don't know that they're trying to force them down, but I think that they are just kind of starting to be more realistic. I don't have to pay over ask. I don't have to waive inspections. I see this has been sitting. I've got the leverage now. So who wants to chime in on this? What else are you hearing? What are you doing to kind of help these two parties come together? Are we having these conversations? I mean, talk to me about the last offer that you made. Where was it? Was it at list? Was it below? Was it? What are those conversations sounding like, Steve?
So I just put an offer in a few days ago. It was 15,000 under ask, which is a lower price point. So the sellers were offended. I
want to pause you right there, Steve. Did you try this method of, like, when you delivered the news? What did that conversation sound like? And just be honest.
So
with the listing agent.
Yep. So I called. I said, "Listen, I just submitted the offer that you're expecting." I said, "I don't want to offend anybody." I said, it is on the lower side." I said, "I do think it's fair." I said, "From my buyer's standpoint, he's just worried about overpaying and offering more than what he could get it for." I said, "We did put an escalation clause in there. There is another potential offer that, they had spoken about." And I said, "We just kind of want to see where the cards are." I said, "I think my buyer's hung up on the fact that, if he could got it for X number and he offered more, he's going to have that regret." I said, "So he likes the property. He's motivated. He has the funds lined up. He's just more concerned about getting the best deal, just like your sellers are trying to get their best deal." I said, "So, feel free to counter, or we're happy to see, what their highest offer is, and we have the escalation to see if we can beat that.
JB, did you have something to add?
I just have a comment. If you want to finish that, I have a comment after.
I think Steve was done.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that the way that I've always looked at this is you have to have the data or the reasoning behind why you're coming in significantly lower than what market value is, if it truly is market value, right? And I think that's on both sides of the transaction. If you're a listing agent and you're putting a property on the market based on a number that the client wants you to put it on, and you're not having the conversation with them that it's being unrealistic, you're doing your client a disservice, and you're going to make yourself look bad in the long run. And if you are representing a buyer who wants to go in $15,000 under, and you haven't looked and pulled data when you're presenting that offer to say, hey, Mr. Seller's agent, this property, based on what I've been able to find, is overpriced, and my buyers feel like that there should be a little bit of wiggle room there. Or the property's been on the market for 55 days. Average days in this area is 15 days, right? It's sitting. I think that you have to make sure that you have all of the information, and you're ready to present all of the information to both parts of the party in order to be able to negotiate appropriately.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I had all the scenarios of, hey, listen, if you come in this low, we might offend them. I said, however, I will obviously let them know where you're coming from, and it's just that you don't want to, if you could get it for
when you pull the comp, Steve, what's it worth? Is it worth what you guys offered, or is it worth more than what you guys offered?
The asking price is more than fair. The other properties in the condo are 15 grand above. So okay. I brought that up. I said, listen, I made it pretty clear to them that I think to get this deal done, it's probably going to be at asking. I said it's probably going to go over, and it's going to be a little bit of a bidding war if there is another offer like they said there was. That's exactly what happened. We got back into the rink because of my communication. So they went from offended to, I'm like, listen, they're not trying to offend you. They're just trying to get the best deal. If they could got it for, $5 grand less than asking, then they would hate to have paid full asking. That's all. That's where my buyer's coming from. He's never bought a house before. He's comparing it to buying a vehicle where the haggling. I said, you guys don't want the haggling. I said, I get it. I said, that's why I suggested the escalation where, listen, you show us a bona fide offer and we'll try to beat it. And it turned out that it got to that point where it started going ping pong and back and forth, 1,000 here, there. And my buyer's like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to pay over asking. And we bailed out.
I think sometimes in these situations, we played a clip from Chris Voss either yesterday or end of last week where he said, just being blunt with your buyers. Hey, have you given up on working with me? Right. And so I think sometimes when we're dealing with this situation, let's just be blunt with the listing agent. Right. Hey, you know what? We pulled the comps. We think your property is probably priced pretty accurate based on the comps. Right. I don't know what your seller's situation is right now, but this is the best my buyers can do. Right. We realize it's probably a little bit less than market, but we also realize you're still sitting on the market. Right. So this is the best that they can do. We understand that there's some comps out there. This is what they got. We see that you guys aren't moving the property. Right. So we're not trying to offend anybody. This is just the best offer that my buyers can make right now. Right. Assuming that is the best offer that your buyers can make, and just put the cards on the table. Right. So we're not trying to offend you. This is just the best that they can do.
Right. And I think that another thing to make sure you're bringing up, if that's the best that they can do, that's your job, is to present that offer in the best light you possibly can. Right. So, I mean, making sure that you're going the extra mile and talking about their financing and talking about the relationship that you have with their lender and having their lender have a conversation with the listing agent. All of those things are going to show your client's offer in the best light, because, yeah, maybe it's not the number they're looking for, but we're going to get it to the closing table. Not everybody can say that.
Yeah, we're pre-approved. We're through underwriting. I'm going to have the lender give you a call. These guys are solid, right? You are going to close in 45 days, 30 days, whatever the case might be, right when you guys want it to. Go ahead, Steve.
So that brings up another good point in this transaction. One of the big things was the pre-approval. It was through one of those online big companies. The guy has a substantial down payment, almost half of 50% down. And I was pretty confident that he'd get approved, but they were like, I never dealt with this lender. Have you? Obviously, I haven't. I'm on my second transaction. But I'm like, I'm not familiar with them. I said he's had a relative that used them. That's why he went there. He had great success. So I then introduced him to Eric at Semper and said, hey, listen, let's just check here. I said, they're kind of weary about your financing. I said, let's just get a second opinion. See if we can get pre-approved through my guy. I said, he's local. He can get us to the finish line when other lenders can't. I have a relationship with him already. And he jumped on the horn with Eric, and they're probably going to get the pre-approval sometime today. He was doing this last night. So I was able to tell the seller, like, listen, I'm calling. I got my lender. We're going through all these hoops. And she appreciated that at the end, even though we didn't make the deal. But she was really grateful with my communication, professionalism. She felt really bad that we didn't get it. I'm like, hey, I said, he tapped out. He's not comfortable. I'm like, they're happy with their decision. I'm just representing them in the best light I can. I understand you're doing the same for your seller. You got to do what's best for them. It's just part of business, and there were no hard feelings. And, she was like, great. She's like, I'd love to work with you again and, stay in touch. And we had a great, 20-minute conversation about real estate and non, and she has no idea that I'm completely new, which is, great. And she's like, you're so wonderful. And she gave me a lot of good feedback on communication. So it was, and I told my buyer, another thing is just because we didn't win round one, the first two buyers I brought, we put offers in, we were second place. Guess what? We got called back on both of them and said, hey, that deal fell through. You're up next. And,
that's the key to the industry. If we're playing the long game, it's building relationships, getting the communication down so that you get that call back. And it might happen on this condo too. So, who else has got some feedback or thoughts or anything on these situations where we've got a gap? What other strategies are we using where, our buyers at one place and the sellers at another? I think the other thing is just, hey, look, this is as high as my buyer is willing to go. Is there anything else that my buyer can do, to sweeten the deal, right? Can they take the property with the furnishings? Can they take it with the basement that's full of junk and they'll get rid of all of that stuff, right? Hey, we're off by a couple of $1,000s. Like just moving all of that stuff that you have in the garage, that you have in the basement, or that might cost a couple of grand. Right. So they're willing to just take it with that stuff. So is there some, something that we can throw in the pot to sweeten the deal when we're off by a few $1,000s? So does anybody have any examples of little tips, tricks like that you're throwing in to sweeten the deal? When our buyers can't make up the number, and you can use this on the listing side too. Right? Talking to your sellers to understand, hey, what are you fearing the most about this move? Maybe we can get the buyers to help out with some of that stuff. Anything coming to mind for anybody, that weird little thing that they've thrown in to sweeten the pot? Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, it's not something that I threw in to sweeten the pot, but it was some feedback on my first deal. The listing agent, I wasn't trying to be a genius, but she called me a genius, and we had the escalation clause in there, but because I was asking for 2% commission and the other was asking 2.5%, we knocked them right out of it because she's like, the fact that you were willing to take 2% instead of the 2.5% got you your buyer this deal, because the other ones were requesting 2.5%, and that wouldn't have made up that $1,000 escalation that they also had. And she's like, so you won automatically. And she's like, that was genius. And I was like, I wasn't trying to be genius. It was just that we have already put in 5 offers with my buyer. My contract was coming to an end, and I wanted to show him in good faith that, hey, listen, I'm going to help you get to the finish line. I'm going to take a little bit less here to get you a deal. Because in my mind, I'd rather have this buyer go to closing, which it's almost at the finish line, than for him to get frustrated, say, hey, you know what, I've had enough, let's wait. And that's where I was at. And it just happened that she's like, that's why you won, because otherwise we could have went back 1,000. She's like, you beat them just on that little bit of commission.
It's good share. Good share. Just be careful, guys. We don't want to share actual numbers. We could just say, hey, the other guy had a higher commission that they were asking for. So I just dropped my commission just a little bit to put the deal together. But yeah, that's definitely a strategy that we can use. Who else has got some unique stuff that they're throwing out there to keep deals together? Think back through your deals. What else have you done? Right. So let's close on your terms. We'll take the house as is. We'll come in there and make repairs. Right. If it's FHA stuff. We'll allow you to lease the property back. That's another one that comes to mind. Something that you could throw out there to just say, hey, you know what? I know you're nervous about this quick transition, but we'll let you stay in it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days after we purchase. Obviously, we got to check with the lender, make sure that's going to be good. Lauren?
Yeah, I just wanted to send out
We can't hear you. No, now you're muted. Before you were just far from the mic. You're still muted. I think we lost Lauren. Anybody else? All right, I will just share the training calendar. Let you guys know what we've got available today. Lauren, did you want to try again?
Is it this mic?
Yep, there you go.
All right. I was just sending out a reminder to everybody that has access to it in Follow Up Boss that we do have the template that should be sent out to your clients before we're writing offers on ways to strengthen their offer that gives our clients the idea and the outline of what these additional terms can be to strengthen their offer.
There you go. That's, always just check that thing just to see if there's any little extra things that you can do. But on the screen, I look at today's trainings, Trends and Tactics Mastermind Group, Building a Referral-Based Business Mastermind, Instagram for Normal People. I always love that little session there. Psychology-driven sales, and then agent attraction stuff. So that is what is available. If it interests you, this is the time of year. Maybe things are a little bit slower. Probably going to do a little bit of business planning stuff later in the week on this call. I saw some stuff from Tom Ferry that I think just makes a lot of sense for this time of year. We've got to be starting to plan for 2025. I think we're going to have that normalized market, which means we should see a few more sales. And I think the professional agents, those that are putting in the work and setting themselves up for 2025 are going to capture that stuff. So take these trainings. If you take one of these trainings and you learn something, bring it back to this call. That's the goal of this call is to be constantly trying to up our skill level, share with everybody else, and we can all benefit. So appreciate you guys. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll do it again tomorrow morning. Take care.